I've told a few people about this, but honestly, it's something I try not to think about too much. It's been a few years now, but I still get chills when I remember that night. It was October 16, 2019, around 7:45 p.m. I was 28 years old, living in Colorado. I loved camping alone back then. It gave me peace, you know? Being alone in nature, no distractions, no noise from the city, just you and the trees. But after this one night, I don't think I'll ever go camping by myself again. It was a Tuesday. The weather was already getting cold since it was mid-October. I decided to head to a spot I'd camped at before, deep in Pike National Forest. The place is called Devil's Ridge. I know, the name should have been a warning, right? But I'd been there before, and nothing weird had ever happened. I thought I'd be fine. So I packed up my tent, lantern, and some snacks, threw everything in the car, and drove out there. It's about 2 hours from where I lived. I got there just as the sun was going down, around 6:30 p.m. I found a good spot, a nice clearing, and set up my tent like usual. I made a small fire to stay warm, and for the first hour or so, it was peaceful. I could hear the crickets, feel the cool breeze. It felt good to be out there. But then, it got strange. Around 8:30, I noticed something. Everything went dead silent. And when I say silent, I mean silent. No crickets, no wind, nothing. The air felt heavy. It's hard to explain, but it felt like the forest was holding its breath. My first thought was, maybe there's a predator nearby, like a mountain lion or something. But this silence felt different. I've been around animals before, and this felt off. Still, I didn't want to freak myself out, so I added some wood to the fire and decided to turn in for the night. I put the fire out, zipped myself into the tent, and got into my sleeping bag. I didn't feel great, but I thought I was just overthinking it. I don't know how long I'd been asleep, but I woke up to this sound, footsteps. Soft ones, but they were definitely there. I remember lying completely still, listening, trying to figure out what it was. I thought maybe a deer or something had wandered close to my tent. But then, I heard breathing. Not like the kind you hear from an animal. This was human. Slow, deep breathing, just outside my tent. I grabbed my phone and looked at the time. It was 1:03 a.m. I didn't move. My heart was pounding and I told myself, it's just in your head, it's nothing. But then I heard something that sent chills down my spine. Whispering. At first, I thought it was the wind, but the more I listened, the more I realized it was someone or something. I couldn't make out the words. It wasn't English. It was this low, raspy voice, like some kind of chant. At that moment, I was terrified. I stayed completely still, barely breathing, hoping it would stop. And for a few seconds, it did. There was complete silence again, and I felt a small bit of relief. But then, out of nowhere, I felt something press down on my tent. I froze. A hand. It was a hand, pressing down on the fabric of my tent from the outside. I could feel the pressure as it slowly moved, dragging along the top of my tent like it was feeling me out. My mind was racing. Who the hell was out there? Why were they touching my tent? I wanted to scream, but something told me not to. I felt like if I made a sound, it would know I was awake. I don't know why, but I had this overwhelming sense that whatever was outside, it wasn't human. Or at least, it wasn't fully human. After what felt like forever, the hand lifted. I didn't hear anything for a long time. I lay there, gripping the small hunting knife I had with me, too scared to even breathe loudly. I don't know how much time passed, but eventually, I heard footsteps again. This time, they weren't circling my tent, they were walking away. Slowly, almost as if they wanted me to hear them leaving. I didn't sleep for the rest of the night. I just lay there, waiting for something else to happen, praying for the sun to come up. and as soon as it did, I got out of there as fast as I could. But before I left the clearing, I noticed something on the ground. Footprints. Bare human footprints, leading from the edge of the trees to where my tent had been. They circled around, just like I had heard. But the footprints were wrong. They were too long, and the toes were misshapen. They almost looked like claws had made them. I don't know what I saw or heard that night. I don't know who or what was out there. But I haven't been back to Devil's Ridge since. And I don't think I ever will. So, if you ever find yourself camping alone, and the forest suddenly goes quiet, don't ignore it. Get out. Because sometimes, when the world goes silent, it's not because nothing's there. It's because something is. I'll never forget that night. And if I were you, I wouldn't go looking for answers in places that are better left alone.